Welcome to Ayurveda and Spirituality with your host, Alakananda Ma, a renowned Ayurvedic expert and a graduate of a top London medical school. She is the principal of Alundi Ayurveda Gurukula, a unique apprenticeship-style school in Boulder, Colorado. She is a spiritual mother, teacher, flower essence maker, and storyteller. Join us as we uncover the timeless principles of Ayurveda, discover practical tips for enhancing vitality, and explore the deeper dimensions of spirituality that intertwine with the ancient science of life.
Welcome, everyone. Welcome to Satsang. Satsang is a meeting of hearts, a gathering of friends to inquire into the truth. Today, we are looking at the big, rambling Chandogya Upanishad, and we are diving into chapter 6, the story of Śvetaketu. We'll be looking at the first part of the story of Śvetaketu today. Quite likely next time is when we'll be looking at Śvetaketu's experiential exercises. But let's see how that goes. So, the father of Śvetaketu is Udalaka. There was Śvetaketu Arunya. His father said to him, "Go and live the life of a religious student, for in truth, my dear, there is no one in our family who's unlearned in the Vedas or who is a Brahmana only by birth." So, to understand this, we need to remind ourselves a little bit what a Brahmana is, that a Brahmana is supposed to be a knower of Brahman. A Brahmana is considered to be the highest of the four castes, the Brahmins, the Kshatriyas or warrior caste, the Vaishyas, the merchants, artisans, and farmers, and the Shudras or the laboring people. However, although the Brahmanas are considered as a high caste, that is not to do with wealth or power. That is to do with the knowledge that they are able to share. So a Brahmana is supposed to be someone who is a knower of Brahman and someone who is learned in the Vedas. Other than that, the Brahmanas are supposed to, or Brahmins are supposed to lead simple lives. At the end of the market day, they go to the marketplace and are given donations of the vegetables that are left unsold. They're supposed to be leading a simple life, focusing on the scriptures rather than necessarily focusing, on IT or these kind of things. So it seems like that was a problem. People being Brahmanas in name only apparently was a problem not just now, but even in ancient times. So Udalaka, the father, is packing his son off to study, to become a student. So at the age of 12, he goes off for his studies. That means he goes to live in an ashram in the forest, in a Gurukula, not an Ayurveda Gurukula like this Gurukula, but a Veda Gurukula. So in this Gurukula, he and the other boys are going to be learning to recite the Vedas. They're going to be chanting the Vedas over and over. that's what they're going to be doing. And he's got to do that for 12 years. So that's also a good time to remind ourselves of the four ashramas. There are four stages of life: the brahmachari, the celibate student, the grihastha, the householder, then the vanprastha, like his father, someone who has left behind the worldly life and gone to live in the forest as a sage. And then there are the sannyasis, who are the ones who have renounced everything. Um, so Śvetaketu, at the age of 12, takes up the brahmachari lifestyle. He comes back at 24. That's a typical age when one would then become married. Men are not, in those days, men were not considered mature enough to marry until 24 or 25, whereas the women were considered mature enough at 16 or even a lot younger. But we're not going to be discussing that right now. So he studies for 12 years. He studies all the Vedas, all four Vedas. And when he comes back, he is very conceited. He thinks he's very well read. He's got top marks. He's an honest student. He's studied all the Vedas, and he's very proud of himself. And his father decides to take him down a peg or two. He says, Śvetaketu, since you are now so greatly conceited, and you think yourself well read, and you're very arrogant, let me ask you, did you ask for that instruction? Yena srutam srutam bhavati, amatam matam, avijñatam vijñatamiti, katam no bhagava sa adeshu bhavatiti. Did you ask for the instruction by which the unhearable, the yena srutam, becomes heard, becomes srutam, the unperceivable, amatam, becomes matam, perceived, and the avijñatam, the unknowable, becomes known? Śvetaketu is like, oh my God, Dad, but he says, Venerable Sir. Actually, he's very polite to Dad now. Is there such a teaching? Is there really a teaching by which the unknowable becomes known? Is there really a teaching by which the unhearable becomes heard? What kind of teaching is that? I didn't learn that from my teacher. He's already getting taken down a peg or two. Because now he's realizing it wasn't just about getting top marks in reciting the Vedas. Not that that isn't important. It is important. But it's not what Dad really meant. Dad meant, don't be a Brahmin in name only. Become a knower of Brahman. Yatta samya aketa mrit pindena sarvam mrmayam vijnatam svyat. Just as my dear, by one clod of clay, all that is made of clay becomes known. The modification being only a name arising from speech, while the truth is that it is just clay. So we take some clay. Maybe we're a potter. We have a big thing of clay, and we have our wheel, and out of that clay, we're going to make pots, vases, cooking utensils, plates. We're going to cups. We're going to make a lot of things from that clay that look different, that maybe get painted and decorated differently. They have different shapes and they have different functions. And we call them different things like cup, plate, bowl, etc. But the truth is, it's all clay. Yata somya akena loha manima sarvam loha mayam vignatam syat. Just as my dear, by one nugget of gold, all that is made of gold becomes known. The modification is only a name arising from speech, while the truth is it's just gold. So you're a jeweler, you've got a nugget of gold, you're going to make some wedding rings, you're going to make some necklaces, some earrings, some bangles. You're going to make different things from the gold. They have different shapes, they have different names, they have different functions. They are modifications of gold, but in the end, they are all just gold. Yata samya akena naka nrikamtina sarvam karshanya sam vinyatam syat. Just as, my dear, by one pair of nail scissors, all that is made of iron becomes known. The modification being only a name arising from speech, while the truth is it's just iron. This, my dear, is that teaching. So next door to the goldsmith is the blacksmith who's making stuff out of iron. Maybe all you have from him is a pair of nail scissors. He's made a lot of other things. He's made horseshoes. He's made nails. He's made all kinds of things from iron. But it's all just iron. And from your pair of nail scissors, you can know iron. From your nugget of gold, you know all that is gold. From your clod of clay, you know all that is clay. Poor Śvetaketu. He is really getting taken down a peg or two. He says, ah, my teachers. My teachers didn't know this. If they'd known it, they would have told it to me, right? Dad, can you tell me? Okay, I'll tell you, my dear son, he says kindly as we go on to section 2. In the beginning, my dear, he is Somya. That's how he always calls him. Sweetie pie, my dear. This was being alone. One only, without a second. This is a very important phrase. Taraiva saumya idam agra asid ekam evaditiyam. The one without a second. In the beginning, my dear, this was being alone. One only, without a second. Some people say, in the beginning, this was non-being alone, one only, without a second. From that non-being, being was produced. So there are different ways that you can look at it, according to different philosophies. But Odalaka has his own viewpoint. So in the beginning, my dear, this was being alone. The one without a second. Ekam evadvityam. The one without a second. That's one of the very important phrases and concepts of Advaita Vedanta. That's what Advaita Vedanta means, that it is All is one. Everything is Brahman. Brahman is the one without a second, because Brahman is actually the only one. Uh, is it in the beginning being, who is one only without a second, or is it in the beginning non-being without a second? Does non-being produce being? How indeed, my dear, could it be thus? Said he. How could being be produced from non-being? On the contrary, my dear, in the beginning, this was being alone. Asid ekam eva dvityam, the one only without a second. Brahman, that's one of the descriptions of Brahman, is the one without a second. So how does everything come about when all we have is the one without a second? All we have is the clay from which all the pots, cups, and plates are made, the gold from which all the rings and nose rings and earrings and necklaces and bracelets are made, the iron from which all the scissors, the nail scissors, the horseshoes, the nails, everything is made. It thought it has a whim. Meher Baba goes on about this primordial whim. It thought, may I be many, may I grow forth. So what does it do? Tat Tejusritaja. It sent forth fire, but it doesn't say Agni. It says Tejas, brilliance, which is really interesting because we have uh, the same thing, that in the beginning, God created the heavens and the earth, which really says in the beginning there arose from that one without a second, the heavens and the earth, the God, the heavens and the earth. In order for there to be a heavens and an earth, there has to be a God to rule over them. And then it says, but there's nothing there. It's tohu vabohu, it's a formless void. And then it says, the first word that God utters is, let there be light. In Latin, that's fiat lux. So what is the first thing that happens here? What is the first thing that Brahman makes? Tejas, called fire, but really light. Tateja akshata bahoshyam prajayati. So just as Brahman has thought, well, I'd like to be many and grow, then Tejas thinks, may I be many, may I grow forth. And what's the first thing Tejas sends forth? It sends forth apa, it sends forth water. So whenever a person grieves or perspires, water is produced from heat. That water thought, may I be many, may I grow forth. And what does the water do? It sends food. Whenever it rains anywhere, then there is abundant food. Food for eating is produced from water alone. Going on to section 3, a little bit of biology. Now, there's different kingdoms that we now have in biology, and as soon as you learn one set of kingdoms, they come up with a different set of kingdoms. Here, we have 3 kingdoms. Of living beings, there are only 3 origins: the egg-born, the live-born, and those born from a sprout. First understandings of biology: egg-born, live-born, born from a sprout. that divinity thought, let me enter into these three divinities by means of this living self, and let me then develop names and forms. Let me make each one of the three threefold. So the divinity enters into these three divinities by the living self and develops names and forms. It makes each of these threefold. How do all these three divinities become threefold? You might be wondering that. I was wondering that. It's going to be explained to us by Udalaka. Whatever red form Tejas has, Yaragni Rohitam Rupam, red form, Tejas Tadrupam, Yachuklam Tad Apam, Krishnam Tad Anasya. Whatever red form Tejas has, it is the form of heat. Whatever is white is the form of water. Whatever is dark is the form of earth. Thus vanishes the quality of fire from fire, because it's only a modification, a name arising from speech. In fact, there's nothing but these three forms. Whatever red form Aditya has, the sun has, that is the form of Tejas. Whatever white form it has is the form of Apa, of water. Whatever dark form it has is the form of earth. So the sun just boils down to these three modifications, the red, the white, and the black. What about Chandramasa, the moon? Whatever red form the moon has, it's the form of Tejas. Whatever white form is the form of water. Whatever is dark is the form of earth. So now there's no really moon. It's just a name arising from speech. It's still just these three forms. Whatever red form lightning has, it's the form of Tejas. Whatever white form it has is the form of water. Whatever is dark is the form of earth. Thus vanishes the quality of lightning from lightning, the modification being only a name arising from speech. In truth, there's just these three forms. So the note from Radhakrishnan explains it very nicely and puts it together very nicely. He says, all things are ultimately modifications of pure being. Sarvasya sad vikarva atva. Sarvasya sad vikaratvat. The primordial being becomes these three deities, Tejas, Apa, Prithvi. This is the doctrine of Trivrit Karana, the threefold bodies, by which each of the three original elements, fire, water, and earth, is regarded as being divided into two equal portions. So there's a part that's kept intact, and the other half is divided into two equal parts. The 2/4 of the two other elements in combination with the one half of the original element. That's a really difficult sentence to understand. If you are reading your Seven Philosophies book, it's going to help you to understand these complex things. So you've got a half of the primordial element that's left intact. You get another half that's divided in 2/4 and gets admixed with other elements. And that is the basis of the doctrine of Panchikarana in later Vedanta. In other words, there's a bit of everything in everything. Everything starts to get mingled up. That's a little complicated, isn't it? But all things are modifications of pure being. There's always a portion of pure fire, pure water, pure earth. But then the other half gets divided into two halves and it gets mixed up with the others, each of which has these quarters. And that's how you get permutations and combinations. Honestly, I've been thinking about permutations and combinations quite a lot the last couple of days after a couple people started hating on LGBTQ people on my Facebook. They can do that on their own Facebook, not on mine. That is my family you are talking about. It's not, I'm not having it. Um, but I've been thinking about this thing that, oh, there's only two genders because there's permutations and combinations of X and Y. Go to XO, XX, XXY, XYY, and XY. So that's an example. We see a lot of permutations and combinations when we do Prakriti. There's many different Prakritis. There are different permutations and combinations of the three doshas that result in people having very different needs and expressions, one from another. So here we have permutations and combinations of modified elements. And then we're familiar with these colors, the red, the white, and the black in Samkhya, because in the Samkhya system, these three colors, the red, the white, and the black, are taken over and made to correspond to Sattva, the white, Rajas, the red, and Tamas, the black. Etad hasma vaitad vidvamsa ahupurde mahashala mahasrothya nanodya kaschana asrutam. Verily it was said just this, that the great householders and great students of sacred wisdom knew, verily it was just this, that the great householders and great students of sacred wisdom knew, when they said of old, no one now will mention to us what we have not heard, what we have not perceived, what we have not thought. For from these three forms, they knew everything. So just going back to what was said before, if you know that one clod of clay, you know all the many vessels made of clay. From that one nugget of gold, you know all the different jewels and coins that are made of gold. From that one little pair of nail scissors, you know all the things that are made of iron. So these venerable people are saying they're really, once we understand the essence of everything, no one's going to be able to tell us anything we don't know. They knew that whatever appeared red was of the form of Tejas, whatever appeared white was of the form of water, and whatever appeared dark was of the form of earth. They knew that whatever appeared unintelligible, something it seems we can't possibly understand, is just a combination of these three divinities. Okay, so Soumya, sweetie pie, now learn from me how each of these three divinities, when they reach the human, become threefold. Annam ashitam treda vidhiyate. When food annam is eaten, it becomes threefold. This is going right into Ayurveda. It's gross portion, not meaning it's yuck portion, but it's portion that is coarsest, becomes mala, becomes feces. Purisha. It actually have the word purisha. The middle portion, mamsa, flesh, and the subtlest portion, mana, mind. Food, when eaten, becomes threefold. Annam, ashitam, trida, vidhiyate. Lots of words you know here. Tasyayas tavisto dhatus tat purisham bhavati. So the gross portion becomes purisha. Your madhyamas and mamsa, the middle, becomes mamsa, flesh or muscle. Your nistastam mana, the subtlest, becomes the mind. It kind of reminds me of when we say in Ayurveda that food is divided into Sara and Chitta, essence and waste. But here it's threefold. Water, when drunk, becomes threefold. Stavisvodatas tam mutram bhavati. Its coarsest portion becomes urine. Your madhyamas tal lohitam. Lohitam is blood. Its middle portion becomes blood. Your nistasa pranaha. Its subtlest portion, the breath, the prana. Tejo, the tejas when eaten, becomes threefold. Tasya stavisto dhatus tad asti bhavati. The coarsest portion of tejas becomes bone. Your madhyama samajja, the middle portion, bone marrow. Your nista sa vak, its subtlest portion, wowie, becomes speech. And we do eat heat. The note says we eat heat in the shape of oil and butter. Oil and ghee. Taila gritadi bhakshitam. So, sweetie, mind consists of food, breath consists of water, and speech consists of heat. Please, Venerable Sir, can you tell me a lot more? So he's completely succeeded. Odalaka has completely succeeded in taking the stiff-necked and arrogant Śvetaketu down a peg or two. Śvetaketu's now decided his teachers didn't know that stuff. Whether that's true or not, we'll never know. He didn't manage to absorb it from his teachers. Of this we know. So what's going to happen the next time we meet? Science experiments, experiential teachings. The Udalaka is going to have Śvetaketu do some very simple, kind of middle school type science experiments. And that's how he's going to be able to understand about Brahman. So one very important thing to remember from this particular class is that phrase, one without a second. That's one of the key phrases of Vedanta. The Brahman is the one without a second. Everything is made of Brahman. That non-being can't become being. Odalaka kind of ridicules that idea of non-being, becoming being. It's being all along, the one without a second. How does that one without a second become many? Through these three great modifications, which are the modifications of the one without a second, Tejas, Ap, and Prithvi. the red, the white, and the black. Of these modifications, there's a portion of each of them that always stays the same. And there's a portion of each of them that gets divided into 2/4 and goes into the permutations and combinations with the other two great elements. And between these permutations and combinations, we end up with the world of multiplicity. But those that are truly wise see through it. Those that are truly wise see through the world of multiplicity, just as they see through everything the potter has on sale in his shop to see clay, just as they go next door to the goldsmith's shop and they see through all the jewelry and they see that it is all gold. And then they go over to the blacksmith's and they see all the amazing things the blacksmith has made. And they even pick up a teeny little pair of nail scissors, but they know it's all iron. So they know that there's nothing that they do not know. And this comes to be the beginning of the answer to the original question which Dad posed to Śvetaketu. Remember that original question? He says, well, you've come back stiff-necked and proud. Let's do a little quiz. Do you know that by which the unhearable becomes heard, the unperceivable becomes perceived, and the unknowable becomes known? Uh-oh. I don't think my teachers knew that because they never taught it to me. So then we have gone through the explanation of how the unknowable becomes known and how we can penetrate into everything and come back to the one without a second. Are there questions at this time? Anyone have any questions?
No questions from me, Ma. Thank you so much.
Yep.
Yeah, I don't have any questions either.
Nice to have you with us, Kelly.
Thank you.
All right, then. So next week, the science experiments unfold. This is just one of the funnest sections because they are pretty simple and fun science experiments by which we probe into the nature of everything. So I'm going to close this call so I can capture my recording, and then we'll be back in 10 minutes.
Thank you for tuning in to Ayurveda and Spirituality with Alakananda Ma. We hope today's exploration has ignited a spark of curiosity and insight within you. If you enjoyed this episode, be sure to leave us a 5-star review and share it with a friend. For more enlightening discussions and practical wisdom on Ayurveda and spirituality, subscribe and join our Facebook group, Alundi Ayurveda. To allow us to continue sharing valuable content, consider donating to Alundi Ashram. The links will be in the show notes. Until next time, may you walk the path of Ayurveda with grace and embrace the light of spiritual wisdom in your journey.
Trayambakam yajamahe sugandhim pushtivardanam urvarukamiva bandanam mrityormukshi